we're in Edison, New Jersey, or you can see it says Woodbridge Township right there, which, and then it'll say right here to the right, entering Township of Edison. This is where Thomas Edison's laboratory was. It's called Menlo Park, the area that he was in. They even called him the Wizard of Menlo Park. At this particular facility, the facility is no longer there. You can see it says Edison Township. It's no longer there. But here he created, finished the light bulb, created the phonograph. In about a 6-year period, his laboratory turned out over 400 patents, and some of them life-changing things. He created the, he was going to go with DC voltage for homes, and it says Thomas Alva Edison Memorial Tower. So we're on Christie Street in Edison, New Jersey, and there's the tower, and it's being redone right now, and the light bulb is on the top of the tower. You see the light bulb, and just amazing. Just a small little museum. They're supposed to be building a new museum, but this is where his see the little museums right here. We're going to go in it. They even have walking trails here. Yeah.
You know, a lot of his early inventions are all engraved in here too.
So I know here, where was the laboratory at?
The laboratory was here. That was perfect segue.
Okay.
All right. Here's the tower.
Yeah.
You see when you drive up, okay? And the tower is situated in the center of what used to be the laboratory.
Okay.
So that's like a marker, okay? And it's a memorial
Kind of
tower.
the dead center of that.
Yeah, that's where the laboratory was. Now these are the other buildings that were on.
I know he had a wood shop. It had stuff.
Yep.
Now this was this the library as well?
No, this is the library.
This is the library because I know.
Library in New York.
Didn't they have like an upstairs, like a
balcony?
A balcony area is in the front. Okay.
Yeah, that's in the laboratory.
Okay.
That's not in the library. The library was used, you know, for research, but it's also used.
So is that where this building is at right now? About.
No. This
close
building,
to it.
We're here. We were back.
Oh, okay. So it's turned so that it was going this way.
Right. At the end of this property, there's still a little bit of this foundation existing.
Really?
And that's about all that's.
Because I saw where y'all were planning on trying to raise some of the foundations so you'd know where the buildings were.
Yeah, and we have a pretty good layout of what. Do you still have that, Kathleen?
I have it. I'll look. I just had it out the other day.
Yeah, we know pretty well. In fact, when we had our. We had a big reopening. We had the building locations all marked on the ground outside. Yeah. But you can see
this is the beginning of the tower?
That's one of the towers. That's not this tower. This is an earlier tower that's straight to the electric line.
That is awesome.
People have been coming to the site for years and years and years. Here's Edison himself. This plaque, this memorial, still stands at the end of the street.
Really?
It's down on Route 20.
So that's him.
That's him looking
sitting at the end of it. So I can go down there and look at that.
Yeah, in fact, we have a great picture of that in one of the books. I know you said you're going to buy something later, but
Yes, sir.
phonograph and the light bulb.
Yeah.
The way I feel about it, the most important thing that comes out of this site is this is the world's first research and development lab.
Right.
This is the first place in the entire history of mankind where organized research and development is done.
Right.
And it becomes the model for the way research and development is done today.
Today, exactly.
You know, this concept of teams and group
working on ideas.
and you know, as a
there's the train.
Yep, that's the train. That's
look at that.
This place across the street.
So it actually starts right there and goes that way.
Yeah, it actually curves around and comes back into town. You just picture.
So you know, he created concrete. You know,
Edison concrete and Edison cement.
Yeah. You know,
the Panama Canal, Yankee Stadium, built with Edison concrete.
That's amazing.
He didn't create it. I mean, concrete's been around.
Right, but he perfected it. Yeah.
He's got his brand of concrete.
Right.
Edison, Portland.
Yeah.
That's been around since the pyramids.
And Portland, I always thought was Portland, Oregon, but it has to do with the Portland Islands, the color of it or something like that.
I didn't realize that. I never knew why that.
It has to do with the color of it. Has to do with some kind of what I read about it was some kind of clay that was on the Portland Islands that
gives it that
resembled
color?
it, gave it that gray color.
But yeah, he does.
But you know, he created the rock tumblers, the things to crush the rocks, and you know, he was crazy about
I
it.
was going to tell you that.
Oh, really? Man, I've read, man.
He does that well.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. This is an amazing place.
In this Portland cement, he builds homes in New Jersey that are poured.
Right, that are all
The entire
concrete.
house is
Yeah,
built.
yeah. And that's what he thought was going to be the wave of the future. He thought it was going to be concrete houses.
She's an ex-school teacher. She homeschools him and instills in Edison a love of reading. And that love of reading carries him through all of his research. He often speaks about her and the inspiration that she gives to him and this instilling in him this desire to read. When he's about 7 years old, that they move from this little town to a much bigger town, the town of Port Huron in Michigan. And the thing that's important about Port Huron is it's a much more progressive area. It's as a port, it has a train. Okay, and wherever the clear cut comes for the train is where they string the wires for the telegraph. So the telegraph comes, and the telegraph at that time is like the internet is today. You know, that's as high tech as you can get. And
he was good at it too.
Oh yeah, he loves the telegraph. When he's a young boy, about 12 to 14 years old, he gets a job working on this Grand Trunk Railroad. And the railroad runs from Port Huron into the big city of Detroit. On that train, he's a candy butcher. He sells candy and sandwiches to the passengers on the train. One of the books that he reads as a youngster is this quantitative chemical analysis. He's always enthralled with chemistry. And he actually brings a chemistry set onto the train with him. Does experiments in the caboose, and as a young boy, and as most young boys with chemistry sets, so he starts a fire. The chemistry set gets thrown off the train. He gets thrown off the train. Fire is an extremely dangerous thing. Manages to get himself back into the good graces of the train people. Gets back on the train. Continues his work as a candy butcher. But now he brings back with him a printing press, a little more proof press. And he publishes, as a boy, the Weekly Herald. And this is a copy of a page from that newspaper. He publishes and
He was selling them. Yeah.
and he sells them for like 2 cents a week, 8 cents a month. Okay, and it's got local news and news about the stock market and, you know, different commodity prices and things. But this is a boy, you know.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, you know, from the farmers. And he sells it to the passengers on the train. And whatever he's got left over, by the time he gets into Detroit, he sells to the markets in Detroit. Here's a kid who's making more money than his parents are, you know. And
Just smart.
he's just smart and he's industrious. You know, he's not afraid of work, and he's always looking for ways of improving things. I'm sure you've heard the story about when he's about 12 years old, there's a little child runs out on the train track. He saves the life of the child. The child is the son of Mr. McKenzie, the station master. Mr. McKenzie, as a reward, says, I'm going to have you trained as a telegraph operator. And here's a picture of Edison as a telegraph operator. He works as an itinerant. He travels throughout the Midwest, travels around a lot, ends up going to Boston for a while, visits a friend of his at a company called the Gold and Stock Indicator Company in New York City. They make stock tickers. While he's there's a problem with the equipment. He's able to fix it. He becomes their chief engineer. While he's there, he's constantly thinking of ways of improving the ticker and also the telegraph. I mean, they work very similar. Comes up with the idea of the duplex. Duplex allows 2 sets of signals to be transmitted
Both
or received both ways on one wire. Telegraph companies are enthralled with this, you know? I mean, they can double their business, and all they've got to do is change transmitters and receivers.
Right. Lines
They
stay
don't
the
have to
same.
go out there and restring up all
Right.
this line. Edison makes a lot of money off
Yeah.
of that. And that lets him get independent enough to go off and start his own company.
Bye-bye.
He goes into the manufacture of telegraph and stock indicator equipment. He comes up with his first patent at that time, and the patent is for this electric boat recorder. The electric boat recorder uses electricity from a battery and uses a chemical to make a permanent record of how somebody votes on a particular bill.
Right.
And it would vote either a yay or a nay. He gets the patent for that. He takes it to the legislature. Nobody wants it. Nobody is interested. They don't like the idea that everybody's voting at the same time.
Right.
They want to be able to lobby and try to convince people to change their vote. Edison later says that he's learned a very, very valuable lesson here, that he will never again come up with an invention that nobody wants, that there's no market
Yeah.
for.
It's got to be marketable.
But he learns a lot from that. Moves to Newark, New Jersey, and opens this factory where he's primarily making telegraph equipment. And he's making
Right.
all kinds
He's
of
making the cabinets, the wood shop, and the whole 9 yards.
whole 9 yards. And he's working on improvements to the duplex. He's working on a repeating telegraph. Lots of things to do with the telegraph industry. And this is a photograph. This is supposedly Edison up here in the window. These are a bunch of the workers.
So that is him.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it
that's
looks
what
like
they say.
him.
It's hard to tell, but
Yeah.
that's what they are.
So they end up making phonographs here.
No,
Not there?
no.
Okay.
Post phonograph is here.
Really?
Yep. This is
So they're
really
making the
a
stuff in the wood shop. So these cylinder players were made here. The original Edisons. Okay.
Okay. Before the cylinder player.
Yeah, now I'm not talking about the invention of it. I'm talking about the actual manufacturing of it.
No. Before the cylinder players are made here. The foil machines are made
Right.
before the cylinders.
Right. That's the
Those are
original.
physically
Right.
made here. And that whole idea. But here, it's primarily telegraph equipment.
Right.
Okay, it's primarily telegraph and some work with the stock ticker. Newark, even then, is a very, very congested, crowded, noisy place. Edison wants to look for something else, okay? He's traveling around, let me back up a little bit. While he's here, though, he meets Mary, and Mary Stillwell is his first wife. She's working for him in this factory. They get married, they end up having 3 children later. 2 of those children, the first 2 children, are nicknamed Dot and Dash.
Yeah, dot and dash, right.
He travels to Europe, he goes to England, he sees a lot of their equipment that they use in their laboratories, he's impressed by it, comes back with the intention of building a laboratory to do invention, not manufacturing, but invention. This is an actual galvanometer and a resistance measuring device from that time, and you can see these. This is the 1873 catalog. Here's that same device.
Wow.
Okay, this is that galvanometer. And this is a picture. In fact, this is the device, this galvanometer.
Right, it's in the picture over there.
Of the
Right,
wizard, right.
right.
This is that same galvanometer that's part of the wizard, okay? So he comes back from England. Meanwhile,
Works on
he's
the
come up with
quadruplex, right.
all right? Now he's got 4.
And that was a game changer again.
Yep. He's flush. He comes back. He looking to get out of Newark. He finds this piece of property. Menlo Park is not the name of a city or a town. It's really a housing development.
Right.
And he buys this house.
Because this thing had a circle in it, didn't it? Like a roundabout or something like that?
I'm not aware of that.
In the, seemed like I remember
Well,
seeing a
this is
picture of it.
This is the plat
That's the
map.
the plot map, okay.
All right. So this is what Menlo Park looks like at the time. And these are all houses, you know, the
Right.
plots that they're trying to sell. He buys
And where are we at on that plot map?
Kathleen.
Union, Jersey, Middlesex, Woodbridge, Monroe.
Where are we physically?
on
Wait, here's Christie Street.
Yeah, Christie Street.
Okay. But where's the pond?
Well, the pond is in a different place than it is today.
Oh, okay. The
It wasn't
pond is
there.
wasn't there?
It changed
Okay.
because of grading.
Because this is off of the main road.
Right, and
So
this
we've
is-
turned, so we're somewhere along in
Yeah,
here.
well, this is Christie Street. This,
So what's this street, this cross street here? Is this Middlesex or Jersey or
Middlesex is right past us.
So it must be,
this is
between
probably-
Woodbridge and
no,
Middlesex?
this is-
no, Woodbridge Avenue, I'll tell you right where we are. Where Woodbridge Avenue is this road here now, it's
That is that
Tower
is.
Road.
Okay, yes, all right. That's how.
So we're between there and Middlesex,
Yes.
in that area right there.
But they never built the roads all the
Yeah.
way through. This is-
Right.
That's why it is, and they've changed
I
the
see.
name. Now, this road down here, this turnpike, is really this Route 27. That's
Right.
the Lincoln Highway. Remember I showed you this memorial?
Yeah.
That's where that sits. That's that
Down at the end down there.
end of that, right. And here's the railroad. And that railroad is still existing.
Still, yeah, I saw it out there. Yeah.
I mean, that's really.
And that's an electric railroad. You know, it's got the lines over the top of it.
That's what you take into New York City.
Right.
Yeah, that's. So he decides that this is where he's going to build his lab.
His lab.
And this is a bust of him at about that time.
And that's the actual eyepiece.
Yeah. But this is what he looks like. And we always talk about how do you measure up to Edison? That's about his height, and that's pretty much how tall he is.
Amazing.
Really well done. That shows, the number of patents per year, and these are the Menlo Park years.
Yeah.
And these are just a sampling of some of the patents that he does here. This is, early light bulb patent. Very, very important improvement to the vacuum pump.
Yeah.
This is a patent, and without this, the light bulb doesn't happen.
Exactly. You've got to be able to create the vacuum inside.
You were talking before about the separating of iron ore.
Yeah.
He builds that here. In fact, he builds the separators built here on this property. I mean, the iron ore is 70 miles from here, 60 miles up in Sussex County, where he owns the iron ore. But this is where he builds the separator. Electric light, phonograph.
I mean, the phonograph, man, that changed the whole world. I mean, everything. I mean,
absolutely right.
Unbelievable.
The whole world,
Unbelievable.
That's like a cliche, but this is a true meaning of that. It changes.
It's just truly unbelievable.
I mean, up until that time, if you wanted to hear a play or a speech or
you had to
somebody
physically
perform
go.
A musical instrument, you had to get up and go there.
Yeah.
So if you lived in a little town someplace, you never had that opportunity.
Yeah.
You could never do something like that.
It's just amazing.
Talk about an amazing patent. This patent is for distribution of electrical lighting, okay? This is the first time somebody sits down and draws a picture of parallel circuits.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing everything in series.
Series, yeah.
Parallel circuits. This is a synchronizing mechanism that he uses.
For the telegraphs,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he electrifies New York City underground.
And some of those early telegraph pictures that were crazy as the wires and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all across the streets.
Yep.
And
yeah, I've seen those. You're right. But I mean, I think that's how everything was done, right? It's point to point. There's no switching.
They just strung them out here and there. And
if you want to go from this place to this place, you ran a wire. You didn't share a wire. We talked about the electric train. This is the electric train. This is electrified tracks to go with that electric train.
And another thing is that people act like electric cars are new. He had electric delivery trucks running New York City in the early 1900s.
Electric cars have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Studebaker is the first manufacturer of electric cars.
Yeah.
No, that may not be true. The early Studebakers were all electric. They may not be the first manufacturer.
Yeah.
Edison gives Ford's wife as a birthday present an electric car.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about having nerve.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the guy who's...
Well, he hung out with Henry and Harvey Firestone and all those guys,
That was their
buddies.
Their camping crew, right? And in fact, they built houses together in Florida. Yeah. But if you look carefully at this electric motor, it's his dynamo.
Yeah.
It's his dynamo laid on the side, So he's a smart guy. This is one of my favorites. This speed controller uses the principle of change in inertia, angular momentum. As the balls get out further, it changes the momentum, so it causes it to slow down. Well, the momentum doesn't change, it changes the moment.
Right.
And so in order to keep the inertia the same, you've got to bring them back in. And he uses that in the phonograph slide.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, this is to me a really important thing. All right, he comes here to Menlo Park. This is what it looks like. It's a farm.
Yeah, it's just
there's nothing
field.
Here. He buys that house. It's a field. It's up on the hill. The railroad is here, and this is what he builds.
So that's the laboratory.
This is a photograph of the laboratory, and this is the porch that they're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because see, I envisioned it being inside the building, like there was a thing around it. But the photographs I saw, they were solid floors on both sides.
Then maybe you're right. I mean, this is what's left of.
And maybe that's what I'm thinking of inside there. Maybe there was a second floor, a gallery type thing.
There might be.
Is what I kind of envisioned.
Okay, and that may be true. I'm not sure of that. There's something like that up in his office in West Orange.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm
and
thinking
that's a
about.
big library, a beautiful old Victorian building with a gallery inside of it. So that may be what you're thinking of. This is the laboratory he builds. I mean, this is a photograph. This is Sarah Jordan's boarding house.
Yeah.
This building still exists.
Really?
It exists in Ford's museum in Dearborn.
So they took it and put it inside
Ford
the museum.
comes here after Edison has left. The place gets run down. It gets squatters move into it. People are stealing wood for fires.
It's hard to believe that they let it go away, but at the time nobody really thought anything of it.
Right?
Yeah.
But Ford comes back here and takes two train carloads of the soil, takes them to Dearborn, and reconstructs this whole complex.
Really?
Yeah. So if you go to Dearborn today, you can go in a copy of this building and walk in the laboratory and see what it looked like when Edison was there.
Wow.
This building is the original.
So Henry Ford knew how important it was.
And he
Yeah.
was Ford's mentor.
Yeah.
I mean, Ford comes to Edison before he even has his first car.
Yeah.
And talks to Edison about the idea of, building a factory to mass produce automobiles. And Edison says, I think you're on the right track. I think that's a great idea, which is strange because later Edison says, internal combustion is the wrong way to go. We should really be using solar power and the sun will never die.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, they remain close friends. But Ford comes back here, takes the dirt, and rebuilds this. And Edison is still alive. And Edison goes there and goes out on this balcony and says to Ford, I feel like I'm back in Menlo Park. If I close my eyes, I'm back in Menlo Park. And that's really quite a compliment.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you go there, it's like seeing the real thing.
Yeah, it is. And it's all outfitted inside.
Yeah,
and
I've got to go see that.
It's the whole village.
That's wild.
It's really wonderful. And if
Amazing.
your wife doesn't want to go with you, I'll go.
You will go with me? And see, I'm a Ford guy too. I worked for Ford
Oh,
for
did you?
17 years, yeah. So I'm a Ford guy on top of everything else. Something about Edison there, but I didn't realize they had completely redone the whole
machine
thing.
shop. He builds this machine shop. That's part of this complex, all right? And the machine shop is driven by leather belts.
And that hangs
pulley.
throughout the whole facility.
Yeah, and that's driven by a steam engine.
Right.
And a steam engine that's outside. I mean, this is an actual Edison lathe.
Really?
Yeah, this is not a reproduction. This is not a later model. This is an Edison lathe from that period. This is all artificial up here.
Right.
But this is
That's
all
real.
Yep. He comes here, he hires people from all different kinds of backgrounds. He hires chemists, he hires woodworkers, he hires machinists, he hires Francis Upton, graduate of Princeton University, physicist. They all work together in the world's first research and development lab. They do research the way it's done in industry today. They work on several ideas at the same time. It's not a series type of thing. We talk about series and parallel. This is parallel thinking.
Right.
He's got one team working on one thing, another team working on something else. They get together daily. They have meetings. They write things down. It's just the way they do things in the industry today.
Yeah.
He keeps notebooks, and this is something that you might find valuable. I don't know if you're aware of it, but Rutgers University in New Jersey has a project called the Edison Papers, in which all of these notebooks are cataloged and are archived. And you can get on the internet at 3 o'clock in the morning in Tennessee and look at what Edison did on June 22nd in 1879.
Yeah, I need to do that.
And it's a wonderful undertaking. And as I said, they're indexed. You can put in light bulb and you'll see all his notes on light bulbs. You can put in filaments. This is what the machine shop looks like. Now, one of the guys he hires is John Crucy. Crucy is a machinist, okay, but I think of Crucy as an artist. Here's a page of that notebook, and over here it says phonograph. And over here it says Thomas Edison, first signature, second signature, Charles Batchelor, Batchelor's like the foreman of the lab. Third signature is John Crucy. Crucy is the machinist. Edison gives him this drawing. This is what Crucy comes back with.
So he makes that.
There's no dimensions on here. There's no material call-outs. This is really, to me...
So is this the actual one?
No, this is a copy
of that. Okay.
This is an actual one, but this is not the first one.
Right.
Okay.
So they made multiples of this.
And this works with foil. And the way it works is you wrap that cylinder with a soft foil. You have a diaphragm that has this sharp needle on it, okay? You speak into the diaphragm, the compression wave from the sounds in your voice
Etches it, right.
makes this diaphragm vibrate. It etches into the foil.
How would they have ever even thought that would work?
You know, he's working on this repeating telegraph.
Yeah.
He's got this idea about vibration and recording vibration, and that's where it comes from, you know? But to make this leap is amazing.
That is amazing. I mean, when you put a record on and it plays the sound of a groove, that's just unbelievable to me. He thought of that.
Yeah, and the thing that startles me today is when you look at the size of the groove.
Yeah.
Okay, how much of an excursion is that needle making? I mean, it's hundreds or thousands of an inch.
Yeah.
Yet it's making this tremendous volume of sound from this tiny little excursion.
Yeah, that's just really unbelievable.
So this is a demonstration of how it's made. You know, the foil is wrapped around here. You turn this handle. You speak into this. When you want to play it back, you move the needle to the beginning.
Right.
And
start over.
put this
Put the horn
funnel
on the other
on it.
side.
Yeah. And this is how you would change them. This revolutionizes things, as you said before. This just changes the whole world. This is what makes Edison overnight the wizard.
Yeah.
At this time, though, he's talking about inventions. He's going to have so many per month, so many per year, so many major ones. That's what makes him the wizard of the Park.
And the difference between him and a lot of other people is he actually did it.
He delivers. Yeah, you know, I mean, he's not 100% successful, but he delivers. He takes this thing, he demonstrates it to the president, he takes it to the Paris World Fair, gets his picture on the front of Scientific America, Harper's Weekly, Daily Graphic. You know, in fact, this is a picture inside the lab here from the Daily Graphic. You know, in fact, this is a great picture of the inside of the lab. I mean, you can look at how closely these belts, in fact, I wonder if they match these belts. See this belt going across horizontal? That's that belt there?
Yeah, it's very,
And somebody came and drew this laboratory. There's the steam engine, there's the boiler for the steam engine. The same time they're working on that, he's working on the light bulb. The problem with the light bulb is the filament, all right? The filament keeps oxidizing and breaking.
just won't last.
No. He realizes then that he's got to do something, and he comes up with this idea of the vacuum enclosure. He improves on an old German design vacuum pump, and that's what that patent is out there, that allows him to get down to 1/1,000,000th of the pressure of one atmosphere that we normally experience. He also comes up with the idea of the high resistance constant voltage. And he realizes that carbon is a great conductor of electricity. Where does he get his carbon? One of these little buildings is called the carbon shop. In the carbon shop, he's got lanterns, kerosene lanterns burning. The smoke from that kerosene lantern is almost pure carbon. You keep the wick up too high, you get this black smoke, it collects on the inside of this glass mantle. They scrape that off, and that's somebody's job. I mean, somebody's out there scraping this stuff off. It's burning 24 hours a day. That's where they get the carbon. Mix that carbon with water, they carbonize cotton thread. They put it in one of these glass enclosures, they evacuate it, they seal the top of it with a torch, and sure enough, they're able to burn this bulb. And the bulb burns for several hours, 40 hours. But then he moves to production, and the first production ones are the bamboo filament that you were talking about. But they're also carbonized using the same process.
Right, same process.
Same carbon from this shed back.
Just as he went, he just figured out how to perfect it.
Yep.
But you know, they had to have glass blowers. They had to have
glass blower. In fact, this glass shop is one of the buildings. This building here is right where this train station is now.
Oh, really?
That's where he builds this.
Yeah.
And look at all the people he's employed.
Yeah.
All right. And this is, 1880.
Yeah.
A couple of years after he perfects the light bulb, he's got a factory, and they're mass producing. The problem with that is nobody's got electricity in there.
Yeah.
From the old vacuum pump, these are some early filament materials. This is a handle from a well that's right out in the back of the lab.
So these are things that they dug up here.
Yeah, that they've dug up over the years here. This is, remember I told you about the Edison papers.
Yeah.
And these are his notes. This is filament.
Filament.
Okay? Carbon spirals, electric light. All right? This is from 1879. These are some of the early filament designs. Bamboo carbon treated in hydrocarbon vapor. Bamboo carbon. Cardboard. There's a couple made of wood. Wood.
Yeah, they tried all kinds of different
Tried
wood.
all kinds
yeah.
of things. White wood cut by machine. Palm leaf. You know? But as I said, if you get a chance to get on that Edison site, the Edison papers, you will find a wealth of this information is there.
A dynamo.
Yep. Now,
So this is
support the light
DC.
bulb. This is a dynamo. Yep. This is not a copy.
This is a real one.
This is a real one. Now,
Wow.
look at that Scientific America. All right, 1879. That drawing is this device.
Wow.
Okay.
So is
It may not be this physical one.
right. So how many of these would you estimate that he made?
A couple of hundred at least. I mean, he was selling these things overseas. He went to London.
Yeah.
He was selling them there. I would say this.
So
was
this
in-
thing fired off of what spun it? The
that's steam engine.
Steam engine spun it, created electricity.
All right. It's got copper wire. You know, and the physics. The principle is if you move a conductor in a magnetic field,
Right.
you'll get a
It creates
flow of electric
electricity.
current.
Right.
Steam engine turns it. This has got the copper
It's
wire.
just simply a
These
generator.
Two big stacks are electromagnets.
Right.
Okay? They create this magnetic field. These two big pieces that you see laying on the floor there, that's
Are
this
the magnets.
cast iron.
Yeah.
That's the base of the magnet. That's
Yeah.
what's directing the magnetic field across the copper wire. Okay? This thing still spins. Not only does it spin,
It spins,
spins
easily.
easily.
Yeah. Is it okay if I touch
oh,
it?
absolutely.
Wow.
Look at the brushes.
You can grease it down there.
Yeah, and there's one missing here. There should be an oiler at this end also.
So you can do this to modify the pressure that's on it
I guess
too.
that's on
Because these
it.
brushes are adjustable.
Yeah.
You can see they wear and they just change them.
Yep. But this was in use up until like the 50s.
Wow.
And this is an actual...
That's the real thing.
That's the real thing. That's his nameplate on the side, and this is... But he comes up with the light, the socket.
Yeah, that's
still
universal
called
now.
It's
Yeah.
an Edison socket, you know? He comes up with fuses.
The fuses, the
He comes up with
boxes,
power
yeah.
plants.
I mean, he created a whole industry.
Yeah. Here's, look at the phonographs. Okay.
Now, this was an adjustable. That's how they adjusted the volume of of output.
Yep, and I think the way they did that was by varying the magnetic field.
Right.
Okay. And you know they would vary it, so you change the ampere turns in here. You know you can't change the turns. You change the current.
And this
you
is
change
high amperage stuff too. Boy, that's why the wires
Well,
stuff's
look
so
at this.
big.
Look at the
Yeah, the
skeleton
blade. Yeah.
blade.
Wow.
We're really fortunate to have this.
Yeah, that is a really cool piece. It
Yep.
sure is.
Now, the problem with this is, as I say, you know, he creates this whole thing. He's selling these to people. People have these in their homes. He comes up with ways of measuring how much electricity is used that use the galvanic. You know how a metal disintegrates as you pass electricity.
Right.
Well, he uses that principle to measure how much electricity is being used in a house. Rather than having a meter the way we do now, he uses this principle to measure how much electricity. He goes in and he measures these rods that deteriorate as you use electricity. He measures them every month. And that's how he knows how much electricity each house has used. These sacrificial anodes.
Yeah.
But the problem with this now is that it's only being used at night.
Yeah.
He's building up an infrastructure of generators and power stations, but they're only profitable at night when people are lighting their home. That's what drives
The
him
railroad.
up with the railroad. It also helps that he realizes that this is a reversible process. Rather than taking electricity out, you put electricity into this, this thing will spin. Electric motor. Now there's Edison electric fans.
Yeah. So he
Back-
reversed the
He
process.
reverses the process, and he takes that to the fullest extent by taking one of these and using it as the engine in this
Yeah.
electric train.
And see, they try to act like I say before, that electric cars are something new. You know, that's old technology.
Yep, it absolutely is. And as I said, this is not a commercial enterprise. This is a demonstration.
It's
but
just
wants
something he
people
did
to
for fun.
realize- Well, he wants to sell it. He
Yeah.
wants people to realize that they can do it. Some early pictures from his notebook also of the Edison electric motor. Early light bulb pictures, you know, showing. But I love the Scientific American because people still read Scientific American, you know? And here it is, and here's the device that they're
The
showing.
actual device.
Yeah. But there's no wire here between the light bulbs because they were all underground.
All underground.
There's wire on the poles, it's all telegraph.
He created underground. And so Christie Street, which is the street that's right out in front of here,
That's the street.
is the first lit street in the world.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow.
This is the first place in the world to be lit with electric
With street
light.
lights.
Yeah. He continues work on telegraph, batteries.
Capacitors.
Batteries become a big deal.
Yeah.
And he continues that when he goes up to West Orange. I mean, in fact, at one point, he's making all the batteries for the Ford automobile.
Yeah.
And I think that that's more Ford.
And he created the starter for
Yeah.
Ford with
Yep.
with Ford. Yeah, they were the first car to have an electric starter.
And I think that, you know, the battery work is really Ford's way of helping Edison at a time when Edison is really looking for capital. This electric pen that we talked about, you can see it's also powered by two of these glass enclosed batteries. Works by, you know, like a tattoo ink, pen rather.
And he did a lot of office machines, mimeograph. That was
Well,
kind of a
down
big
here,
deal for
see
him.
this?
Yeah,
That's the #1 Edison mimeograph.
yeah.
That later becomes A.B. Dick. All right. First copy machine, right?
That's a copier.
That's a copier.
That's funny.
His work with carbon leads him to realize that the resistance of carbon changes with pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. He uses that to build microphones. Okay, you know those old candlestick
Yeah.
microphones? That's an Edison patent.
Yeah.
This is an Edison telephone receiver. Edison doesn't invent the telephone, but he invents the carbon receiver, and that becomes a part of Bell's telephone. In fact, here you can
Yeah,
see it.
there it
too.
is.
And when I was a kid, we used to be able to unscrew the earpieces
And take them off. Yeah,
take
you
them
can
off,
see
and
inside
you
of
hear
them.
something,
Yeah.
right? And I always thought it was
Yeah.
sand. I didn't know what that is.
Yeah.
It's the carbon.
Yeah.
Where's the carbon come from? This little shack out here. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that. My grandparents were antique collectors, and so we had
that's wonderful.
My granddad had about 500 of these cylinder
Really?
machines. Had 2,000 cylinders. So things like you're talking about the telephones, we had the old
That type-
crank style
right.
telephone that I played with. You know, all these things that I played with. And so that's why a lot of this stuff is really near and dear to me, because I grew up with these cylinder players.
That's
He was
wonderful.
getting them when people were putting them on the street and
Oh,
throwing
yeah.
them away. You know, so when he
Yeah.
passed away, he had over 500 cylinder players.
Yeah. Players are really valuable.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cylinders. And we have a bunch of players also, but we have a lot of the cylinders. The cylinders are really... I'm amazed. I mean, you know, you talk about he starts an industry. There are stores in all the major cities selling these players. You know, and
2 minutes.
goes
Then he
from-
went to the Ambersol, the
yeah,
4
well,
minute.
this is an Amberol right here.
Amberol, yeah.
He goes from the foil and the flywheel, he goes to this device.
Yeah.
And this device now gets rid of the foil, uses the cylinder. The first cylinders are really beeswax.
Yeah.
Okay? And he's smart enough to say, hey, this cranking, you know, I can't keep the speed constant.
Right.
He comes up,
Spring.
he puts a spring, like a clock mechanism inside of it. He puts this speed control that we were talking about
Right.
before. You know, that's why that patent is so important.
And this guy was a clockmaker that worked for him. So,
Cruising.
yeah.
It's just amazing to see this progression, you know. And these things are portable now. Look, I mean, this is a cover. You don't have to carry these things around. But it's a beautiful piece of work. It's
It
like
really
a clock.
is.
It really is like a clock. And now, rather
And
than...
the machine work is as good as it is today, you know.
Well, look at the thread.
Yeah,
I mean, look at
just
how
amazing.
fine this thread is. And now, you know, all I've got to do is turn this crank, throw this switch, and that he really...
And look, that
and he
thing,
keeps working on it forever.
they're still doing it today. They're called
yeah.
CDs and all that kind of stuff, but it's still the same. It all started right there.
Yeah, the whole idea of being able to record.
So you were saying that the volume, they called that putting a sock in it. Can you start it? And let me.
Sure.
So to control the volume, they would put something in there, and that's where the
Like a mute on a trumpet.
Yeah.
You know how you put a mute in?
Yeah.
Same thing.
that's where the saying "put a sock in it" came from. It's really amazing.
Now, they make all different kinds of these. You know, there's many, many different models. There are stores selling them. There are stores with catalogs of the cylinders, Edison's pictures.
And there's tiny players too. There's portables. I've seen all the different kinds. Of course, then Standard started making players that, you know, so there's a couple, he had some competitors.
Oh yeah. Did you know that there's even machines that are driven by water pressure?
No, I did not know that.
You hook them up to a hose, the water pressure turns the wheel. I mean, it's just amazing. You know?
It is. Now this machine, it doesn't say Edison on it.
But that's a Bergman. But this is one of his machines. Yeah, this is a Bergman.
So it's one that he licensed to them?
Yep,
or?
and it's a very, very fancy machine. But yeah, we
Wow.
just had this one refurbished.
It really looks nice.
It's a beautiful machine. Eventually, it leads to...
Edison.
Right. He doesn't invent the record, but he adapts to it.
Right.
The record is easier to store. It's much more sturdy. Again, look at this picture.
And I actually have some Edison. I have some one-sided Edisons that are only, you know, only printed on one side. He had about 2,000 one-sided Edisons, my granddad.
Again, driven by a spring. Lever again. And when I drop the needle down, oh, this doesn't have a trumpet.
Right.
Of course it does.
It's just
Trumpet's
built in
moved
here.
down
Yeah.
So it'd be a fancier piece of furniture for in the house. Now,
This thing has a volume control. Is that what that is, or is?
now we talked about this mute.
Yeah.
Now what's
So it's
that
got a
volume
built-in
control?
mute. Look at that.
It's like a piece of bicycle chain. And here's a lever.
That is amazing.
And as I move that lever, that little ball of cotton moves into the
It's
throat.
amazing.
And then this comes along, and this is an accessory.
So that was something they made back then?
He didn't make this, somebody else makes this.
Look at that. Amazing.
And I've had sound engineers in here who can't believe the range.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It really
You're
is.
moving this mass, this mass, and you're still able to get that type of frequency response
Yeah.
out of something from this age. When Edison, all of a sudden Edison stock becomes very, very valuable. And Upton writes this letter back to his wife talking about how all of a sudden he's worth something. I mean, doing all this work for almost nothing. So this is Ed Upton's picture when the light bulb becomes a commercial success. Now, you talked about the iron ore mine.
Yeah.
So he has this property up in Hamburg, New Jersey, and he comes up with this ball mill. That's one of his patents, which is this mill to
Separate.
No,
Yeah.
to grind it.
To grind, yeah, he would grind big rocks down to little rocks, yeah.
Down into powder almost. Then he comes up with this idea of the separator. And this is a photograph also of this site. He builds the separator here. I don't know why he does it here other than the fact of the laboratory.
Right, it was just here.
So he's moving the rock from Hamburg down to here, not the rock, but the ground up powder.
Right.
And he demonstrates this here, and it's just two of these big electromagnets, very similar to the electromagnets in the dynamo. You take it up with a conveyor, you drop it through the funnel. Anything that has
Magnetic
iron ore in it,
properties,
magnetic
right.
properties gets pulled to the side.
Yeah.
Basic and simple idea.
Yeah.
Nobody else would have thought about it.
Amazing.
Yep. Let's take a little over here. This is just a couple of pictures I'd like you to see. This is Batchelor, and this is Upton. They're really very, very instrumental in all the work. This is a drawing of the upstairs of the laboratory.
And they got
This is
all that stuff
Yeah.
sitting around
All this
everywhere.
chemicals
Because they were saying that what I read was that they had drawers like with feathers in them, and things were all cataloged. And,
Absolutely, and especially for the filaments.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff still exists, and a lot of that's reproduced.
Yeah.
This is a photograph of the guy sitting on this front porch, and this is Edison. And this is a strange picture of Edison, but that is Edison. He looks slightly different for some reason. He ends up building this big, big, beautiful place up in West Orange. And if you really want to, if you've got the time, you should go to West Orange also. West Orange is a much bigger, and it's a national historic site. but this is where the
This is where it all happened
This
at.
is exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how we feel.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, when I was thinking, we're here. I'm in the hot tub business. We were in Atlantic City at a hot tub show, and so we're taking we were here for a week, and we were going to New York. And a couple of nights ago, I thought, I wonder where Menlo Park is, as opposed to, and heck, it's on the way to New York, so this is a no-brainer. I got to stop and
West Orange
see.
isn't that far from here.
Really, not that far.
West Orange is maybe half an hour.
Really?
Yeah, it's really an easy trip. But that's got a lot of the latest stuff, and that's got, the thing that impresses me the most there is their machine shop is up and working. And it's all driven by these old big machines. Yeah, that's still the same one, and that will be re-illuminated within the next year.
Really?
Yeah, we're refurbishing that entire tower. Actually, the state of New Jersey is refurbishing.
Yeah.
The state of New Jersey owns this property. And there's been, you know, it's suffered from the weather.
Yeah.
And you can see, if you look at this panel here, that the rain has gotten behind a lot of the panels. You know, this concrete is coming off and
Yeah, it just takes some
separating.
upkeep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've been really lucky. We've got a great architect. We've got a great archaeologist. This company has come in.
Now, was Edison alive when this tower was built?
Not for this one. No, this one is, he dies in what, 1931.
There was a smaller
This is
one.
30, that's the one that you saw outside.
Right,
That
okay.
was just a frame, looked
Right.
like an oil derrick,
Right.
oil well. This one he's not. This is built after his death. The architect designs this so that it looks like it's getting brighter as it gets to the top. So it looks like the light is on 24 hours a day. And the way he does that is by mixing different aggregate. There's 13 different combinations of stone and cement that change the color. Each panel is slightly different as it goes up. And that's all being reproduced now. And that'll all be done, we hope, within the next year. Talking about crank telephones? Remember the old crank?
Yeah, so that's inside the telephone.
This is what used to ring the bell at the other end. And we used these to demonstrate to people how, you know, moving a spool of wire in a magnetic field generates electricity. And the thing that I think is interesting is, if you turn this, would you turn this for me, please?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it turns pretty easily.
Yeah.
You're just overcoming friction. Once you put
Right.
a load on it, people realize what energy means.
Yeah.
You know, that it's different if you've got to do work.
Yeah.
But that's what this is.
That's really cool.
Inside of an open.
When you're showing series parallel and series
again, for
circuits.
kids,
And
this is what.
yeah. So the actual laboratory was right here. The laboratory went this way, where the tower, and they built the light on the top of the tower. They're refurbing it right now, but the actual laboratory was, the light is almost in the tower's almost in the middle of it, and it started maybe here and went to the other side over there. This is Christie Street. This is the first street in the world to have lights on it. And you can see now they're solar powered. But this is the first street. Thomas Edison put lights on this street. The first one lit. This is where the first electric train was. He built this train for commercial use, and the track started here and it went down and actually curved around and went for a couple of miles. But this is where the train was at. See, where we're standing at is right here. And it goes down and turns, and the laboratory's on behind us, which the laboratory's right over here where the tower's at. There's the museum. But the train starts right here, goes straight down there, and makes a left turn. Christie Street, Middlesex Avenue. Thomas Edison Information Trail. So they used to picnic back here. Okay, you got the key. And this is the trail, and they would walk through here. And this was his land. So these places that we're visiting right here on this plot of land, is where the phonograph was invented, light bulbs, electric railroad, so many different things it's hard to even fathom. 400 different patents in a 6-year period right here at Menlo Park. Right here. So they're telling me that some of the foundations for the buildings are still down here. So I'm going to walk down here and look. Look, this thing was built in 1936. 1961, people gave money. This thing was built in the 1930s, I believe. This is the foundation for one of the buildings. You can still see it right here. There's another foundation right down here for another building. There's bricks. That was his office, Edison's office right here. "136 years of recorded sound in 2013. When is it? July. In 6 more months, it'll be 136 years of recorded sound. This brick. These are bricks from the area. Say. The Wizard of Menlo Park. Makes me want to cry. Just such an amazing person, such an amazing life. I thank the Lord for him. All right, in the video, I'm going to show you a picture of Thomas Edison sitting right here looking at this, and my picture as well, sitting right there looking at that. And this is at the base of the hill. This is on the main road. This railroad was here when Menlo Park was here, and it is actually an electric railroad right now, and it's really fast. That train goes into New York City from here. But this is Menlo Park, and this right here was a bird bath or something. Look at where it was there, and somebody's thrown it up in here. What in the world, people? The torch that was on it. Wow. But this is at the base of Christie Street. And the museum is up at the top of the hill. This is Christie and Lincoln Highway. There's that railroad. And the station is up here, and the train came by a while ago. I didn't catch it, but it was really fast.